Hey, what's going on, friends? This is Paul Hutchings with episode 50 of The Good Parts. Hope you're having an amazing day. In today's episode, I want to share an email that I received after yesterday's live that is, I think, pretty profound in its ability to define intuition and also explain how to use intuition in a way that can allow us to make better decisions. And if you missed yesterday's live, I talked a little bit about nature's sage, which was all about defining wisdom. And the definition that I ended up with, thankfully given to me by a friend, was wisdom is conclusions and awareness drawn from accumulated experience. And I coined a phrase to kind of sum up that definition, which is out tuition. So out tuition, you're drawing conclusions and awareness from your experiences, your life experiences, as well as the life experiences of other people, both people that you observe and also people that you learn about in books and podcasts and audio, so on and so forth. And in the episode, because I mentioned out tuition, of course, the corollary to that is intuition. And I posed the question, what is intuition? If out tuition is gathering all of this stuff from the external world, how would you define intuition? And is intuition a thing? And it's an important question for me. For one reason is because one of the things that I say to myself and others many, many, many times and believe is something that is good to do is the phrase follow your heart. One of my favorite quotes is, follow your heart. It is the only compass you'll ever need. This life is your message to the world. Let it be extraordinary. So what does it mean to follow your heart? It seems like that's kind of related to this word intuition. So I want to share the email and just share a couple of insights on this, and also ask you, do you have a definition for intuition? How would you define it? Do you have any stories or examples from your life and or business where you followed your intuition and it was a good, it turned into a good outcome? I'd love to hear below. And also, if you're tuning in live, let me know who you are. Bill Rizlov, hey, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. And if you're tuning in the replay, please let me know your name and where you're plugging in from. So let me just go ahead and share this email from my friend Jeff. And Jeff, thanks so much in advance for sending this to me. So I'm going to broadcast it up on the screen. So here's what Jeff wrote. He said, "Hi, Paul. Such a great live this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. The question you raised, what is the difference between intuition and wisdom, got me thinking, and I came to this conclusion. If wisdom is defined as the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, the quality of being wise, and intuition is defined as," now here's the definition. Here's his definition of intuition: the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. I think that's an interesting way to define intuition. So it's sort of like, we see something or we hear something and we intuitively know that it's right and we resonate with it and we want to run with it. That's a great definition, I think, of intuition, or at least one way to look at it. I was recently reading an article on an individual named Ingo Swann. Have you guys ever heard of Ingo Swann? He was a famous remote viewer, where he actually was involved in some studies with Princeton, where they were doing a whole bunch of experiments over a long period of time, doing what they could to determine whether or not consciousness could have an effect on physical reality. And one of the things they got into was this remote viewing, where they had, I think, Pat Price and Ingo Swann were two of the most famous remote viewers. And they would, with their minds, seemingly be able to transport their consciousness to faraway places like Russia and even into outer space, and bring back data that was then later confirmed by verification. And a lot of critics of this, so I'm not saying that this is 100% true or accurate, but it does seem from some credible sources that I've looked at that there was something very real to this. So if there was something very real to this, what is that? inner knowing, intuition, knowledge from the inside rather than knowledge from the outside. So that's just an interesting random side note. But I want to come back to Jeff's email here. So inner knowledge, right? Then it stands to reason. Now here's where we get into the title of the video: how to use your intuition to make good decisions. Jeff says, then it stands to reason that they work harmoniously and effortlessly side by side. The more you observe, learn, and wisdom you achieve, and the more wisdom you achieve, the easier it is to exercise wisdom and good judgment. The more you exercise wisdom and good judgment, the more intuition kicks in, like muscle memory, to instinctively handle situations correctly with clarity and confidence without the need for conscious reasoning. Just the thought. And that's a powerful thought. And I want to talk just a little bit more about this thought. So one of the things that I love about what Jeff wrote was that they work harmoniously together. One phrase that I have found myself saying over the years is God gave us a brain and a heart for a reason. We're supposed to use both, right? It's not supposed to be just the brain, logical facts with no heart. And also, I don't think it's supposed to be the heart without using the mind. I think they're supposed to be together. So outtuition might be might be correlated with the mind. Intuition might be correlated with the heart. And so that's the first point: is they work together. And have you ever have you ever run into someone who says that they know something is true based on an inner knowing, but that thing that they seem to know is true can be easily kind of like, proven maybe not true with data. There's the world seems to be full of people who know that things are true because they have an inner knowing, but they haven't really done much work in study and research and, using that out tuition. I think of like my children, my youngest son, sometimes he will assert that he knows a thing to be true, when in fact, I know that the thing he's asserting to be true is absolutely categorically not true. So he's using inner knowing, but he's wrong. He's absolutely wrong on that. And so when I say follow your heart, I do think it's a good thing to follow your heart as long as we are guiding our hearts and our inner knowing without tuition, which to me means we're feeding it and refining it, and it can become better and better and better over time. And one simple logical way to look at this, going back to what Jeff was talking about, is if you do the thought work to analyze different ideas and decisions, and you do the thinking to come to conclusions, in the future, when those similar situations arise and you've already done the work, when you see a similar situation, your inner knowing says, I know how to handle this. I don't need to think about it. I instinctively know how to navigate. So separating all of the paranormal stuff and the spiritual stuff, just from a logical standpoint, it does stand to reason that the more mental work you've done in advance, the better your intuition or your automatic decision-making would function in the future because you've done the work. So I think that's an interesting point. And I do think that one of the biggest mistakes that can be made is trusting, and it maybe wouldn't even be intuition, but it's believing that you're right on an inner knowing, and that's all, and not guiding it at all. And maybe you could kind of relate that to ego more so than intuition. Maybe intuition is something deeper than ego. Maybe intuition is connected on a deeper level to who we are on the inside, connected to something bigger on the outside, but then that is also guided and informed over time. There's a quote from, I think it's Leonardo da Vinci, who said, "You can't teach anyone anything. You can only help them discover it within themselves." And I think that's an interesting quote because it relates to this idea that potentially we have a connection to all knowledge. There's a book, Psycho-Cybernetics, that talks about this as well. This idea that we have an ability to connect to knowledge that is completely outside of ourselves. The collective consciousness is another phrase that's used by Carl Jung to talk about how we have access to this collective consciousness, this vast database of information, past, present, maybe even future. And we have the ability to connect to that via maybe intuition, but ego, I think, could be a stopper to that. And ego is like a false representation, maybe, of that, where we think we know something that we don't actually know. And I think maybe a good thing to say regarding intuition is that intuition is best developed with humility, like a very, very humble student that is always open to new wisdom and new knowledge, and in following that new wisdom and that new knowledge. And that would be maybe the last thing that I would like to say on intuition is that it does, I think it's very, very reasonable to assume that the more you use it and follow it, the better it would work. If intuition, if messages from deep inside of wisdom, or maybe even from the beyond, who knows, these inspirations, these divine messages that maybe are attempting to guide us, it does stand to reason that if we value those messages and we act upon them, that we would be opening the lines of communication to receive more of those messages. It's like a parent who loves to bestow good gifts upon children, even more so when the children are thankful for them and they gather up those gifts and they treasure them. The parent sort of naturally wants to bestow more of that upon the child. And maybe intuition is that way. Thinking about my lived experience, it seems to me that is an accurate representation, that the more I follow my heart, not blindly, eyes wide open, brain open, consciousness open, right? Using outtuition and following my heart in combination with that, it does seem like the better I'm guided as I'm moving forward. So anyway, the last little thought I had on my notes was, thinking you know something and following an intuition without giving it any guidance from outtuition would be like a rocket engine with no guidance system. It's just got like all this power, but there's no goal or direction or guidance to bring it back on track when it gets off track. So some random thoughts, guys, kind of crazy things to think about. But hey, what's going on, Ramundo? Thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate you being here. But anyway, I do these lives every day, Monday through Friday. I call them the good parts because I endeavor to share one good part from my life and or business. If you got value from this episode, please subscribe to me on social media, and or if you want to be sure that you get content from me in the future, I would love to invite you to visit my treasure trove website here, paulhutchings.net/JFTS. Subscribe to my email list and you'll be sure to get all of my future content. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have an amazing day, and we'll catch you in a future episode. Take care and bye.